Most people assume that time is linear, that the past is fixed, the present is fleeting, and the future is unknowable. But that's not what really happened to me. I received a phone call from myself. Not a voicemail, not a message. A voice, my own voice, from a future I hadn't yet lived. And every warning it gave me didn't prevent disaster. It drew me closer to it. By the end of this story, you might question everything you thought you knew about causality, fate, and what it truly means to live. Why would my future self reach back through time to warn me? Was it mercy, a desperate attempt to change what was coming, or something far darker? Because each call, each piece of advice, came tethered to consequences I could never avoid. And that's where things get darker. Every choice I thought I controlled was already part of a pattern I could never escape. Most people never realize that the concept of self is far more fragile than we imagine. Your consciousness is not just the thoughts you have in this moment. It is a continuum, a thread stretching through your own existence. Imagine your life as a river. Normally you flow downstream, carried by events you call fate. But what if someone, or something, could ripple the water from ahead, causing whirlpools you never expected? That's exactly what happened. My future self became a force in my present, bending the river of my life toward outcomes I hadn't chosen. Here's the hidden truth most people overlook. Warnings from the future do not prevent events. They enforce them. Each call I received was like a lever I pulled without knowing its weight. The universe doesn't allow escape from itself. When my future self said, "Don't leave your apartment tonight," it wasn't just advice. It was a directive. And by trying to obey, or even to ignore, it only ensured the outcome was inevitable. It started subtly. A street I intended to walk down had already become a scene of chaos. A minor decision to grab my jacket triggered a cascade of events I could not undo. I began to notice the patterns. Each warning created shadows I could feel creeping closer. I realized with a sinking horror that my life was no longer mine. It had become a loop of predestination. This is where it becomes deeply unsettling. My attempts to act freely were the very mechanisms that led to catastrophe. I was a prisoner of my own future self. The final call came late at night. My own voice whispered, "It's too late." And in that moment, I understood the unbearable truth. My future self had not been trying to save me. It had been preparing me for a reality I could never escape. Not death, not failure, but something worse. The realization that control is an illusion, and the self is nothing more than a shadow cast by what is inevitable. Most people live thinking they are masters of their destiny. They plan, they hope, they resist. But what if every action you take is already a consequence of a future you cannot alter? This story is not just about a phone call. It is about the subtle tyranny of time, the fragile illusion of choice, and the haunting truth that sometimes the only power you have is the power to watch your life unfold. Powerless. I keep the phone now, even though it no longer rings, because sometimes, late at night, I hear the echo of my own voice warning someone else, somewhere else. And I wonder, was I ever alive, or just a reflection of the future trying to remember itself? This is not a story with closure. It is a story that lingers, a shadow that whispers long after the lights go out. But that's not the only anomaly I discovered. There are other messages, other voices, reaching back from impossible timelines. And the next story, will reveal one that doesn't whisper. It screams.